Hey, Pack leaders is here for Zero Protecting Balance Protecting Pack. Today I want to talk about how, like they say, oh, the crash is coming, the crash is coming, the dollar is gonna crash, and all this other stuff. But I don't think it's really gonna crash until maybe there's war going on, and we start to see, either our troops win or if they lose. If they start to lose, we better start worrying about the dollar crashing because the military was what enforces the value of that dollar. And if we can kind of maintain our dominance with the petrodollar and force a lot of countries and sanction a lot of countries to continue to use our dollar, then it'll always be there. Okay. But as other countries are fighting against it, like China and Iran and whoever else try to Russia, whoever tries to fight against that, um, if they prevail, then yeah, it's gonna go that direction. It's gonna go into the petro yuan, and they're gonna have dominance because really, all the war machines are fueled by crude oil, right? Without that crude and that dominance in crude, you're basically starved out, and that war machine is just not gonna work, right? Because all the jets, tanks, aircraft carriers, a lot of them all use that. Of course, there's some nuclear powered plants, but but majority of just troops and movement is using gasoline, right? Especially our economy here that takes a lot of movement of trucks to move supplies back and forth are all pretty much using gasoline. Okay, but if we can choke that and we keep other countries from you know getting being self-dependent. So if there's like if a war breaks out, all we do is choke those supplies, right? And then they can't fuel the war machines, and they can't fight back. In a sense. So there's a lot of importance in that crude, which is in the end. In the sense, the U.S. needs to control that, and so there's major oil wells where Saudi Arabia is major one. Iran has can produce their own, and a lot of the countries like you know that are against us in the sense, they're trying to be free from us, is trying to be self-reliant and buy oil from Iran. So with Iran, I think believe the other countries have like this waiver from us from the U.S. to allow them to buy oil from Iran, and they're finally just choking that down to zero, where Iran can't do any exports and kind of trying to bring the economy down to its knees. And if they continue to do that, then we can kind of know which side is which, who is with whose side, kind of thing, right? And so, based on that, you'll have whoever supports the petrodollar and whoever supports the petro yen, and that's kind of how it's gonna apply unfold. So there will be a breaking point where it'll cause conflict, and Iran will not just sit there. And they're going to try to be prepared too, because they need to. They've been living through sanctions all the time, and they're going to need to find ways to keep their economy up and be able to trade um, and do business basically. And so it'll just be kind of like you know kind of like the mafia in the sense of who kind of comes by every so often for their extortion fee, and the U.S. can't will need to enforce that if they need to pass through this the strait where all this crude oil is being exported from Iran. They gotta get through that territory. So that'll be important. I think it's called the I forget what it's called, but there's a path where all the exports come through Iran and everyone else, and so and the U.S. enforces that to make sure that people are paying what they're paying and making sure they're adhering to sanctions and only moving so much oil and all this other stuff. And when that conflict happens, that could be the spark of it all. And then if China doesn't want to buy U.S. oil because we can jack up the price, and that means they're depending on the dollar still. If they try to buy oil from Iran, well, that's going against us, and we're not like that either. So so you kind of see who's picking whose side, kind of thing. Okay. So yeah, that's when we know that things are gonna really hit the fan. So until then, you kind of look around here, at home where everything's good. Of course, gas prices are high. Things suck as far as but we're still living in a pretty wealthy country right now. We still have bathrooms and utilities, and we're not living in the dirt road with barely enough food to eat. And there's plenty of stores, and we still buy stuff for now. But if things do hit the fan, and that's when the dollar fails, and that's when we really need to go down to gold and silver and probably grow our own food and be dependent on growing our own food. We'll probably need to get out of city because they'll probably be looting. People just fending for themselves, and break-ins and home invasions, and just to basically survive off each other, and that'll be the survival of the fittest, right? So I don't want to be part of the fight. So and I feel like here, I mean, I see there you can't get like Toyotas and vehicles and airplanes. It takes a corporation putting teams together, who are specializing what they specialize, in order to build a sophisticated machine. But when we're out in the rural area, we'll kind of do everything ourselves. We're making our own honey, growing our own food, making our own soap, making our own basic stuff, right? And that all still takes work too, but we're not the best of the best at it. We're not making large quantities and stuff. So I think even though it works, it's just that underlying dollar is what's used to have people focus on that skill, making them come to work every day, and using their skills to produce something of value. But I think I kind of like because of course as an employer, I understand that trying to empower my employees with time freedom, money freedom, they end up kind of not doing anything, and they're taking advantage of it sometimes. It's just I don't know, it's just human nature, where we kind of have to force them to kind of chase that dollar too, in order to get stuff done and get work done. And so we're kind of all enslaving everybody. But yeah, I guess so every job requires them to enslave every person, and if they enslave more people, in a sense, they would have the reward of more income, to more tax deductions or less taxes on it, so they can empower them to enslave more. So it's kind of like a perpetual enslavement from a macro level to a micro level, from the government down to businesses, down to corporations, to small employer kind of situation. And everyone has to find a way to sell something. And I feel that when you do sell something, you're taking their cash, right? So in a sense, they have to work more, which then they have to go back to work and do what they do most. So in a sense, you're kind of enslaving everybody and perpetuating the enslavement. And if I don't enslave anyone, then my family doesn't get fed, and it's just like that's what I see, right? And so what do we do, right? We have to be debt free and move out to a rural area where it's cheaper, grow on food. And so then we're enslaving ourselves, because then now we're enslaving ourselves to the farm. And so there's new techniques on back to Eden method, where we don't have to constantly till, seed, and then harvest. It's more like just letting nature do its thing, because there isn't any sprinklers, and God still grows plants and trees, and it's still, all the stuff gets fertilized, and things still grow on its own, right? And once we came along, we're like, oh, let's just remove all the covering, which is all the leaves and the branches that cover the ground, which maintains the moisture of the soil. And then the sun just dries up the soil, and then nothing grows, and we don't add back to it. And so each year the yield gets hard and hard, because it's less and less minerals to grow the plants. So the back to Eden method is kind of just constantly continually adding the covering, which is like the natural branches that fall down, or the wood mulch. and continue maintaining the moisture that's in the ground. So as it rains, it maintains that, and we don't have to basically water our plants on a regular basis. It just grows, you know. And each year the yield gets more and more. So I'm excited to do that. Once we move out to Texas, I'm gonna start a little garden. So we'll be documenting that here and there, and kind of, you know, sharing that with everyone else. So hopefully you guys can also break free from your 9 to 5 and still serve one another in a joyful way, and still have the freedom to spend time with your boy with the help of the internet, to continue to do what you got to do and share that with others. It's definitely connecting us with the internet, and I still see, you know, how Stripe and, you know, everyone else, you know, using their service will take fees off and all this other stuff. There's really no, I think there's, you always gotta be enslaved to something, right? So just like in the Bible, it's to be enslaved to Christ instead of being enslaved to sin, right? We're here, we were created to serve for a purpose. Once our purpose is done, God will no longer provide for us, and we will be gone. So we're here for a reason. We're not just here to sit back and chillax. He made us to serve a purpose for His glory, and we just need to obey that. Even if we have a 9 to 5 job, that's probably where we need to be. In this, you know, looking at, you know, when you look at it in the spiritual sense. So as we're serving employers, we're also serving God. At the end of the day, serve His purpose. And if there's if you can get out of it, then get out of it. You know, that's what the Bible says too. If you're able to get out of slavery, then, and you can pay your way through legally, and then you could definitely apply for another job. Okay. But, you know, as you're watching this video here, you know, find ways to invest in other assets. Don't just sit there with this, you know, job that's happy-go-lucky and never focus on building assets on the side. So use the money that you get paid at 40, 30, for whatever, $50 plus an hour, and, you know, hire someone else. Of course, you have to enslave someone else in a sense, and, you know, help them build your business so that you have an asset to then, you know, free yourself from your 9 to 5 job kind of thing. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to talk to you guys later. If you have any questions, comment below so that I can reply and I can make new videos on. And he is almost three months, I think. I lose track after having 3 babies. Sometimes I get confused on their birthdays too. But he's definitely smiling more and very, very fidgety and very interactive. So thank you guys. Take care. Bye.